Number 5 for me is Brooklyn Brothers Beat the Best.
Oh.
This movie is pure enjoyment. Actually, out of my top 5 movies of the year, all of them are pure enjoyment for me, and one of them is a bit more dramatic. But I really gravitated towards the movies this past year that were just pure pleasure. And Brooklyn Brothers is definitely that for me. I think it's the great buddy pairing of the year. These two lead independent actors. I'll have to look up their names. We interviewed both of them, but I don't
That's true. We did.
Here. But this is a movie you'll have to search for. I'm pretty sure it's on demand. It might be on Netflix and all of that, but it's the least known out of the movies on my list, I think. But it's there are musicians that gather together, two musicians that gather together to go on the road and to end up at a competition, but play some venues along the way. They don't know each other. They're both one of them is very eccentric, but the style of music that they form together as a duo says a lot about their characters. I mean, this is a movie where the music is actually expressive of who they are. And in a lot of ways, the movie is about becoming an adult. And the music reflects that. The lyrics are very kind of adult and sorrowful. But the instrumentation that the partner lends to the band all comes from children's instruments, like wazoos and toy keyboards and all the xylophones and all of that kind of stuff. And it also introduces in its third act of the character of a brother played by Andrew McCarthy. This guy wants to be a musician. He doesn't necessarily lead a responsible life. He's still stuck in kind of an adolescent mindset. His brother is very religious, the do-gooder in the family. He has a family of his own. He's upstanding, a house owner, and all of this kind of stuff. Andrew McCarthy plays him in the movie. He comes in the third act. And this movie could vilify that character, but you absolutely get a sense of tremendous love between these two brothers. It doesn't take the easy way out when it portrays Andrew McCarthy's character. And Andrew McCarthy truly loves his brother and wants his brother to be happy, and just feels painful that he hasn't kind of embraced adulthood yet, and he's still kind of wandering in life. So that's a very welcome element in the third act of the movie. And it turns out to be a genuinely touching movie with two characters that you absolutely enjoy being in the company of. So Brooklyn Brothers Beat the Best, number 5.
Okay. That's on my list to watch.
Number 4 for me, I've already revealed. Number 4 for you, Jerry, was Argo, right? So that leaves your number 4, Dean.
Well, my number 4, let's see, let me get to it. My number 4 is also controversial in its own way. It's possibly, controversial just my including it in this year's race, but for me, it's Kenneth Lonergan's Margaret, which I found the most emotionally devastating movie that I saw this past year. And my first instinct is kind of to leave it behind for 2011, considering that it's really a 2011 film. It was released in theaters, albeit very, very quickly, but its director's cut, 3 hours director's cut, was first released in 2012 and on DVD and Blu-ray, so that's the movie that I'm pointing at right now. For me, the film's release date is not of the essence. What is important is the immensely honest portrayal of everybody and everything the movie contains. In it, Anna Paquin plays Lisa, kind of a snotty, self-absorbed, privileged youth living in New York City with her actress mother, who's played greatly by J. Smith Cameron, And the film begins with this unforgettable scene with Lisa trying to flag down a bus driven by a blue-collar worker played by Mark Ruffalo, when her actions caused the driver to run down a pedestrian, who's also played in one brilliant scene by Allison Janney. And the results are a sort of a very difficult peer into morals and personal flaws that, put the viewer into untold territory all the way around. And, the whole movie has peerless acting. The whole cast is great. Jean Reno, Jeannie Berlin, who, I haven't seen in years. I can't think of another film that Jeannie Berlin's been in besides The Heartbreak Kid. Of course, Matt Damon and Kenneth Lonergan himself and Matthew Broderick. Just a great cast, and the whole movie is challenging. It's ridiculously rich. It's unforgiving. It's got a lead character that's hard to love, but it's really about her, journey to realizing she's not the only fucking person on the earth. And I think that's great. And I still think there's discussions about 9/11 and the Jewish mindset and teenage sexuality and its examination of examination of that unlikable lead character. Have led it to be kind of a repressed, suppressed movie. But I encourage everybody to take a look at it. Don't diminish it. It's Lonergan's sophomore effort after You Can Count on Me from 2000, and it's absolutely essential viewing. And I really can't recommend it highly enough. It just completely floored me.
No, it's that kind of movie.
So weird, the journey that movie has taken. I mean,
it is bizarre.
Yeah. Such an unexpected kind of movie to have that to have that kind of agonizing journey to
the
extreme.
Well, you have to wonder, what was it? And I think I tried to, say, because it does have some things to say about, it does have some difficult things to say, and I tried to say it in here, but, it does have some difficult things to say about 9/11. It does have some, kind of, Jean Reno pipes up with his even though he's going out with, J. Smith Cameron in the film, who's Jewish, but he pipes up with a negative Jewish comment that could be seen as, you have to debate it, and then, there's just that strange sense of sexuality in the film, but primarily its lead character who's just really tough to be around. And you just wonder, is it one of those things? Is it all four of those things that worked against that film actually getting released?
I think the lead character would probably be the main culprit. However, I don't know, because I haven't seen the theatrical cut, the truncated cut that came out. I don't know how much that. Okay, how much does that soften it?
It doesn't at all. I mean, it just the 3-hour cut just gives you more, but all of that stuff actually is contained. All of that stuff is contained in the theatrical cut. So yeah, I don't get it. I mean, was it because it was 3 hours? I mean, there's plenty of 3-hour movies that are out there now.
It always shocks me how studios. And I don't know the story with the financing of this one, but how studios can buy something and then they get exactly what they paid for and they have a problem with it.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know.
So,
I mean, I think that the Weinsteins are just famous for getting things and then fucking with them, and I think this is something that they mess with them. They mess with them in the editing room. They did that with Prozac Nation a few years ago, which never really got a real release either with Christina Ricci.
Most famously, All the Pretty Horses. That director's cut, Matt Damon said, probably never see the light of day, but he said that director's cut is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jerry, your Argo is number 4.
Right.
So what's your number 3?
East of the Southern Wild.
Still haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
I had to pick this. I know people saw my post a couple of weeks ago on Facebook about my mom's description of this movie, but it really, I didn't know what to expect from this movie, and I understand, Jamie, your reaction to the movie, but that makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense, because there are times I might have walked out of the movie. At times in my life as well, I might not have been able to sit through it, but having fully sat through the movie, it was like nothing I had ever seen. I'm so happy this found some Oscar love where it did, and rightfully so. But it experienced a world that I had no idea exists. The bathtub in the New Orleans and everything. I was just blown away by it. I just couldn't get over how immersed I was in the subject matter and into the main characters' trials and tribulations. It just really blew me away. I just couldn't get over. I couldn't get over how immersed I was in it. But I was glad I took that journey, and I don't regret it whatsoever.
My one complaint of that film, it took me a little while to get into the film, about 20 minutes before I said, okay, well, I like this movie now. And now it just missed getting into my top 10, by 3 or 4 spaces. But,
right.
My one complaint of it was that camera work, which, is that sort of shaky thing that I dislike in most movies. And then,
right, of course.
Then after a while, I gave myself over to it because I realized that we were literally on shaky ground here. I mean, in a lot of places there is no ground; there's just water. So I eventually had to say, well, the shaky camera is actually something that actually works here. And so I'm fine with it. And then by the end of the movie, it's just absolute poetry. That final shot in the film, it's just
absolutely.
And those two performances, Dwight Henry and Quavizada Wallace are just superb. What are you going to say? And unbelievable that they got those performances out of those two non-actors. It's just unbelievable. And
I still, I haven't seen but the first 10 minutes.
Okay, that's cool.
But I will watch it. I will watch it before Oscar night. I have it here, so I'll take a look at it. And I'm sure that if I stay patient with it, that I'll end up liking it. That's the feeling.
You do have to. It does require some patience.
It does. I would be lying if I said it didn't.
Number 3. My number 3. That's a good question. What is my number 3? My number 3 is 56 Up, the Michael Apted documentary. We've said it many times on the show, and I know we all feel this way. I mean, this is the one of the most important uses of film ever, documentary or otherwise. And this is a great entry, of course, like every one of these that he makes every 7 years, following the same group of. He follows the same group of people every 7 years. He revisits their lives from the age of 7, and now they're age 56. Every one of these has made my list of best movies of the year, because I just think it's the most important. Nobody's using film in a more important way than Apted does with this series.
Right.
And I think this is a very good entry. And you see a lot in this one. It's very emotional because they're losing people. They're losing husbands. They're losing family members. They're losing their security because the financial crunch is hitting them. So, I mean, it really is, and their kids are growing up and they're experiencing problems with their kids, and it really, what interests me too is that as somebody younger than these people, I can look and I can say, yeah, I know that there's going to come a time, and it might be soon, when I'm going to be sitting where they're sitting. I'm going to have lost my parents. And I know it's interesting too for Apted, who is older than the people he's shooting. He's probably looking at their lives and saying, "Yeah, I've been there." You know, so it's such a kind of a litmus test of humanity and where you are in life, how you respond to these stories. But what a beautiful concept. I sincerely hope in the remaining history of filmmaking that somebody picks up the mantle and renews this, because I think it's so valuable. It teaches us and reflects who we are, and I think that's the most noble intention of any piece of art. Number 3 for you, Dean? Do we do that?
No. Number 3 for me is from Norway. It's by Joachim Trier. It's called Oslo, August 31st.
Great movie.
Great movie. This constantly riveting dissection of depression and drug addiction surprised me with its love of life's simple beauty and its knowledge that some damage that we do to ourselves is just so intricately woven into our psyche that no amount of concerned effort can repair it. Anders Danielson Lee, in one of the year's great performances, portrays the tentatively clean protagonist and follows him as he's released from rehab and goes about visiting friends and family and pining for the days before he really lost his innocence. The screenplay by Trier and Eskil Vogt features some constantly intriguing dialogue, but the scenes that really stick with me are the ones in which Anderson spends by himself, observing the normal lives of others. And particularly, there's a really great, lovely but somehow sort of excruciating scene in a diner in which he's sort of longingly eavesdropping on the conversations going on around him and wishing that he was part of them and part of was sharing in these sort of normal lives, again and again, in this movie we see this obviously smart and emotional lead character experiencing and then just sort of throwing away golden, life-affirming opportunities. And, we're just left wishing we could just shake some sense into him somehow. But as this remarkable film convinces us, some things aren't that simple. And it's beautifully photographed. If you have a tendency not to like foreign films because of their pacing or whatever, I would encourage you to check this one out because this one will actually surprise you with its I think fairly fast pace. And I just loved it. I was devastated by it. All 5 of my top films were just movies that just absolutely just left me depleted. Like I had just run a marathon or something. They just absolutely killed me.
But you guys have both raved about Oslo.
No, it's a very good movie. It's a devastating. I think devastating is the right word.
Number 2, Jerry. What is your number 2?
Silver Linings Playbook.
Nice.
Oh, dude, I watched this movie, and as it was unfolding, I'm just like, oh, this is just too perfect. And, Jamie, do you want to play that sound clip about spanking the monkey, or you don't want us to play that? Or
is that what you're doing as you're watching the movie?
No, I was not, actually. I know that people want to videotape me or record me. No, I was not. But David O. Russell...
Spanking the monkey. I think spanking the monkey is very bold.
Thank you. Thank you, Pass, Jerry Dennis. But, no, it's... David O. Russell has not made a bad film yet, and I actually think this is one of his best because it marries what he's doing in The Fighter and Three Kings to those earlier films, Spanking the Monkey. But it's just, he knocks it out of the park here. He really does. And with that, he has one of the best casts to do that with, and they're all nominated in each important category. And Daniel Day-Lewis is a great Lincoln, Bradley Cooper is better, if you want to know the honest truth. I love Lincoln. I think Lincoln's a great film, but it has the same problem that, to me, The Master has. It doesn't end when it should.
You know what, though? I think that Daniel Day-Lewis is obviously brilliant, and he evokes what we believe Lincoln would be. But I think Bradley Cooper, quite honestly, has more to play.
Absolutely.
I think he's given more to play.
Oh my God, he does! And when he throws the book out the window and then he goes into the bedroom,
that was a great scene.
I love that. But I love the way the whole thing unfolds. I think I love Jennifer Lawrence, obviously, in Winter's Bone and The Hunger Games, and I think she's Anton Yelchin's better half in The Beaver and Like Crazy, but and in the X-Men movie she's great, and and what have you and everything. But with Bradley Cooper, they're just magical together.
Yeah, they're a good pairing, actually.
Oh, I love them together.
Who was originally cast in the movie? It
was,
was,
and here's the thing: it's Vince Vaughn and Zooey Deschanel. Come on, we know that's not going to work. And look, I'm Zooey Deschanel's greatest, defender, but I know that post New Girl, no one is going to buy that. No one would.
Vaughn would have been a little too old for that character, I think.
It doesn't matter what character. I mean, both of them.
7 years a little old for that.
Those actors are those types, because Vince Vaughn can play the uppity, very uptight, fast-talking, nervous, twitching guy, and Zooey Deschanel does. She's great.
She does
kooky well. She does kooky. But with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper, I mean, they feel like they're coming from a more kind of genuine place when they try to play the.
I agree with that. I mean,
she doesn't play it. She doesn't play it as kooky either. She plays it.
No,
it feels a lot more unexpected. Yeah.
I mean, if you bought it,
really has her. She really has her feet on the ground, and she's really got a sense of what really is going on. So she's not she's not a manic pixie dream girl, thing going on. So that was refreshing.
Good pick.
That's a movie that's in my top 20.
I finally saw that movie last week. I was like, all right, this is the one movie that I have to see.
You're right.
I got to get it out of the way. Okay, so Silver Linings Playbook is your number 2. Dean, what is your number 2?
My number 2 movie is a film that is, gosh, I can't remember a film falling so fast from grace like this one, but it's Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. It was met with real anticipation when it came out. Before it came out, it was greeted with sort of initial kind of confused raves, and then it was just abandoned with just complete contempt only a month later. And it just the movie just left everybody wondering what happened, But I don't really get that. I mean, to me, its intent is crystal clear, For me, Joaquin Phoenix delivers the performance of the year. I mean, this is like James Dean level brilliance as Freddie Quell, a twisted horn dog, alcoholic, war veteran who parlays his mastery of photography and chemistry into a friendship with Lancaster Dodd, a megalomaniacal cult leader played with equal grandeur by Philip Seymour Hoffman. To me, this film seems so simple. It's about the battle for Freddie's soul, and this is something that Freddie is not going to give up so easily. So what was wonderfully complex about The Master was that Lancaster Dodd's questionable brainwashing methods actually do help Freddie Quell come to some sobering conclusions about himself, which he tries to remedy in the running time of the film. But this doesn't mean that Quell owes Dodd his life. Still, the film...
No, not at all. He doesn't owe him anything. He doesn't owe him anything, I think.
Exactly, and... hold on a second. Still, the film has good feeling for both its main characters and deep suspicions about its most villainous presence in the unlikely chilly embodiment of Amy Adams as Dodd's imperious wife. And I think it ultimately has great respect for Freddie and Lancaster's friendship. But it also knows that Freddie has other fish to fry, and it generously lets him go about doing so. And with a tremendous score from Johnny Greenwood, an astounding 70mm photography from Mihai Malamare Jr., just the master left my body and soul like buzzing afterwards, like I had, had some of that mixture that Freddie comes up with in the film. So it just, I came out of that movie just floating on a cloud, and I just felt like I had just seen the novel on film, and I still think it's the most technically accomplished movie of the year.
It very well could be. You know what? I had this at number 20 because it was a movie that when I walked out, I didn't think it quite made it for me,
right.
and yet I couldn't shake it. I mean, there were so many elements to it that were unforgettable to me, and there's something there that I think is going to continue to reap rewards for me the more I watch it. Where I am now on the movie, I wholeheartedly agree with two things you said. I do think Joaquin Phoenix gives the performance of the year.
Yeah.
And I think all you have to do is see the people that say this is the best performance of the year, and then look at the other side that say this is the worst performance of the year, to know that there's something there,
Yeah.
And I made it akin to kind of like he's playing almost the living embodiment of like a Francis Bacon painting. I mean, he's all twisted and tortured. It almost feels like performance art in a way. It is incredibly brave, and it is incredibly brave that Paul Thomas Anderson allowed him the freedom to go where he goes in this movie. And the photography is just breathtaking.
Oh, it's out of this world.
Exceptional.
Where
I am now,
of Freddie's photographs.
It's a gorgeous rendering of the period. Where I am now, I think that I'm feeling like it should be simple, and he stuffs the movie with all these flourishes that make it too complicated. Like I feel like the whole singing Slow Boat to China at the end was a pretentious art school brushstroke. And I didn't find it as vivid and alive and alert as his other movies. Man, I watched Boogie Nights again the other night. That movie sings, man. I mean, that movie's got such a life to it. And I felt a great sense of pathos in There Will Be Blood, and I knew people complain about There Will Be Blood, like it's such a cold, distant character, but I completely empathize with Plainview because he struggles to connect in that movie.
Right. He does.
And he fails, He can't do it.
He does fail.
He can't do it, and that's the tragedy of that character. I feel, but I didn't feel the master as deeply. But that's not to say, and why I put it in my top 20 was to leave the possibility open that I very well might be able to emotionally come around to it the more I see it, because he's not a filmmaker to be dismissed, and I would never do that. But
it's definitely a movie that you can definitely see almost everyone who's seen it going back and watching it again and going, oh yeah, that's not this bad.
Yeah. So did we go? Yeah, your number 2 is Silver Linings, Jerry.
Right.
My number 2 is Bernie. The absolutely best surprise of the year for me. Look, I don't gravitate towards Jack Black movies. I've never particularly actually been impressed with Richard Linklater movies. I think he's fine. But this movie was pure joy for me. And my favorite performance of the year is Jack Black in Bernie.
Wow, okay, cool.
I mean, it very much is. I think that because this character could have been played in a very condescending way, I think there's a purity in Jack Black's performance and in the movie, by extension, that is so kind of wide-eyed and optimistic and beautiful and positive. And the whole, I love movies that really create the environment for me, where you feel like the movie is absolutely lived in. And this small kind of Texas community in this movie, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're a part of that world. The real life people that they use to kind of narrate the entire film and help you along from beginning to end. The most masterful brushstroke for me in any movie this past year is what Linklater decided to do with that. And it's just and he does an enormously terrible thing in the movie, and yet you're still with him, and you're completely empathetic with him. And the movie earns genuine laughs, but none of those laughs at his expense.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know how they did that.
That's another wonderful thing about that film.
It's so delicately done.
Could have easily turned into a hit job on that character.
Right, it could have. You're right.
Never did.
I put Bernie in. I've watched it several times since I first saw it a couple of months ago. I just put it in just to have a genuinely pleasurable time watching a movie. I love being in the company of these characters.
Right.
I really do. And when that townswoman says he was an artist as a mortician, he fixed her underbite so it wasn't so sticky outy. I was like, oh, what beautiful kind of language that you cannot make up. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So Bernie's my number 2.
Yeah, it's in my top 15.
So you're so we're ready for everyone's number 1.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I guess we are.
Okay, let's blow this baby out. Wouldn't it be funny if we just ended the show here? Yeah. Okay, Cherry, let's hear it.
Oh, you know what it is. You all know what it is. Everyone who listens to the show knows what it is. Django Unchained.
Because Silver Linings held this position before you saw Django. So
Silver Linings would have been number 1. Silver Linings, let's be very honest, Silver Linings would have been number 1. But no, Django, I'm sorry, I do not. I don't think it's a better film than Inglourious Basterds. It's a damn good film. Damn good. It's just, and it has problems. And I promise you, Quentin, I'll watch it on Blu-ray many, many, many times, and I'll try to come up with those problems if I can. But he made going to the movies fun again. I don't know how to say that. I told this to my mom a couple of weeks ago. He made going to the movies fun again. And I don't apologize for that. I know a lot of people look down on him. A lot of people hate him or are jealous. He just made everything fun again, and I really appreciate it. And I can never thank him enough for that.
It's interesting how his ambitions have changed over the years, and now he's on a bent where, he's telling stories on a grander scope.
Right.
And yet he hasn't lost that exhilaration in his storytelling, and that's been with him from the very beginning, where you fall in love with movies all over again watching a Tarantino movie.
Right.
And like I said, I really do think there's a lot of pathos in this movie that is absent from his other movies. So it does in many ways feel like a maturing. It's interesting though, because Pauline Kael, I can't remember what movie she was talking about. Maybe The Fury, and we all know how much she adored De Palma for the most part.
Right.
She pointed out the flaws in the movie, and she said, yes, these flaws exist, but they don't matter. The strength of the adrenaline of this person's work carries it along, and it makes it such a singular experience that any kind of complaints about it feel like needless quibbles,
Right.
Essentially, that's what she said, and it was about The Fury. And in many ways,
love The Fury.
In many ways, I can see that with Django. I mean, if you're invested enough in the deliciousness of the concept and Waltz's performance and Samuel Jackson, I mean, there's so much to savor in Django that you can't dismiss those pleasures because of a few problems that you have with it. Those few problems don't necessarily diminish what's so great about it. That's what I'm saying. I do a completely unexpected choice, Jerry.
Oh, I know. I mean, really, who would have thought? I mean, it's like going to see in Casablanca. There's gambling. Who knew?
Yeah. Okay, so Dean, you're number one. Everything right on this.
Yeah, number one is a film that I saw in 2011 at the New York Film Festival, but it only got a very limited release in January of 2012. Very limited, very, very limited. And it is Nuri Bilge Ceylan's Once Upon a Time in Anatolia from Turkey. This extraordinary rumination on guilt and mystery captivated me like no other film, to the point where I've actually consider it now like one of the 100 greatest movies ever made.
Wow, okay.
And its unforgettably night-cloaked first half, a band of police officers take two murder suspects on a trek through rural Anatolia, hoping that they will be able to find or remember where they buried a body. But suspects were drunk during this criminal act, and each hillside
they were.
They were drunk, and each hillside looks like the next, and so the search doesn't go as smoothly as the police want. They take a break and take a sort of an ethereal overnight stop in a small village where the authorities and the suspects catch a glimpse of an angel, and I'll leave it at that, and then the search continues. The second half of the film harshly eliminates the past of both the investigators, led by Taner Bursell as the star prosecutor, Mohammed Uzner as a contemplative coroner, and Yilmaz Erdogan as a tough police commissioner, and their main suspect, chillingly quiet Ferhat Tanis. And in this, the film reveals past missteps that all have taken that have morphed into huge injustices and even huger regrets. Hauntingly photographed in widescreen by Gökhan Tiryaki, Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, along with another great as yet unreleased 2012 film, Yusem Ustaglu's Araf, Somewhere in Between, revealed to me a whole new world of cinematic brilliance located in an unlikely, though clearly creatively unchained country called Turkey. Once Upon a Time in Anatolia is just simply just one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. It's funny, surprisingly funny. It even has moments that recall Tarantino in its dialogue.
Yes, that's true.
Particularly in its first part. You know what I'm talking about, Jerry? And then
no, I do, because I just saw this a couple months ago, so I do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and then it's poetic in many scenes. It is moving, and particularly in its final 30 minutes. It's always beautiful to look at. It's perfectly performed. I seriously have zero complaints with this film. You know.
Have you had a chance to see it again since New York Film Festival?
I haven't, actually. I haven't had a chance. You know, one of those things that's just, I haven't been able to find it any place, or I don't go to, there's only one video store in town, and I don't have a Netflix subscription, so, but it's just one of these movies that's just absolutely stuck with me, and I just can't forget it. I mean, I'll never forget sitting there watching it, and it was the first movie that I saw at that year's New York Film Festival, and I saw it like at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is not my favorite time to watch a movie ever. And so,
what time is that now? What time is
9 o'clock in the morning. You know, I mean,
oh God, no, yeah, I know what that was.
You know, I mean, I'm there sitting there. You know, I got there at 8:15 or 8 o'clock or whatever, and I'm sitting there pounding down the coffee, and I'm like, okay, the first movie is a movie from Turkey. Oh, good Lord, what's this going to be like? You know, and then I was sitting there next to my friend Tony Dioub, and I said, when it was over, I said, oh, my God, if they're all going to be this great, I'm going to be exhausted by the end of this thing, because I was up there for like 2 weeks of that year. So I just could not believe how great it was. And I can't wait to look at it again. I can't wait to look at it again. But, you know, I just highly encourage. Yeah.
There's some movies like Vicky Cristina, which was my favorite movie that year, that
right.
I won't watch again. Like, I've only seen it that one time, and that experience of watching that movie was so perfect for me that I don't want to lessen it by watching it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's some kind of sacred experience, that reaction I had to that movie.
I have to say, you know, I have a similar feeling about this one. But I just have to say also that, you know, if I watch it again, I'm gonna wish that I was watching it on the big screen, because it really is a big screen movie. Watching those, you know, those nighttime scenes that are just sort of illuminated only by the headlights of the cars that they're driving and everything. And, you know, and just hearing the sound of the wind rushing through the grass and everything, and just, you know, there's no music in the film, and that was just, it was just something like I was just like watching something so like it was a jewel. I was just, you know, it was like uncovering the most perfect jewel ever that I've ever seen.
Of course.
Yeah, it was just. So I
had a feeling that would be your number one. I had a strange feeling, but that's good. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about it all year. In fact, more than a year.
It's a good film. So no, good for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't forget it. You know, and you know, it had to be number one. You know.
All right. So finally, my number one, and then we'll close the book on 2012. I wish I had some in memoriam music.
Yeah.
Anyway, my number one favorite film of 2012 is Silver Linings Playbook.
Wow.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I mean, Bernie had this until I finally caught up with Silver Linings last week. It's for me. I mean, I love it for a lot of the reasons why I like Bernie. So enchanting, and you have such goodwill towards these characters, and you love being in their company. But also, I mean, Silver Linings does something very tricky. I mean, it tries to do something different with a romantic comedy, and it certainly does. And yet, it at the same time, and this is the problem that some people have with it, but what I love about it, at the same time, it embraces its status as a romantic comedy.
It has that dance thing at the end, and that's just totally thrown over to the side in a lot of ways. You know, that's wonderful about it.
But even that, I mean, the dance competition, that can be very kind of standard crescendo for a romantic comedy, and they finally dance and perform together, and they finally realize how much they love each other, and blah blah blah. I mean, we've seen that before. What makes that scene so damn unique and great, I mean, the audience just erupted into applause when this moment happened, was they get a 5, and they're beside themselves.
Yeah. That's my favorite line. That's one of my favorite lines of the movie is, why are they cheering when they only got a 5?
Yes, and the movie is really about that. It's finding the peace and the joy with the mediocre or bad hand you've been dealt. The movie is about optimism.
Right.
And that's why I love the movie. I mean, how do we find optimism? For most of that movie, Bradley Cooper tries to lie to himself to find it. You know,
that's true. That's very true.
Until he finds what's truthful, and the people that love him help him get to that place. I mean, it's such a great, good-natured movie, and I'm such a sucker for genuine good-natured movies.
Yeah, no, and it is. You're right.
And the relationship between De Niro and Bradley Cooper in the movie, I love, and I do think that this is De Niro's most vital work in years. You know, I think actually he's great in Everybody's Fine, which is not a great movie,
But he's terrific in it.
Still on my Netflix queue.
But I love De Niro in this movie, and there's such an alertness to his performance that's missing a lot of times, and a sensitivity. I mean, that scene where he's bearing it all, painfully so, to Bradley Cooper. I mean, he feels responsible in some way, that he passed on this illness to him.
Right.
And that last little monologue that he has to Bradley Cooper, like, this could be your one chance and don't throw it away. And it is so passionately delivered.
It's brilliant.
And it could be just, the same kind of monologue you hear in all these damn movies. It's delivered so genuinely for him, with such a sense of love. And that's what I feel from the movie, just a genuine sense of love. And that's what I responded to. And Jennifer Lawrence is great. Jennifer Lawrence is like a shot of adrenaline in that movie.
When that scene where one of my favorite scenes in the movie is where she confronts Robert De Niro with the whole superstition thing.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Oh my God!
That scene goes on.
I was on the edge of my seat because I'm like, I need to hear this because as someone who is suckered to some superstitions, I needed to hear it. I felt she was talking to me. I mean,
what's also so
I'm
great
on the
about
edge
that
of my
scene
seat.
Is how quickly De Niro changes his tune as soon as she brings up those superstitions.
That's so great. That scene is terrific because it's really got it's a long scene too. It goes on for like 10 or 15 minutes. So it's like, but it's got every single one of the characters is in that room. I mean, the Indian doctor is in the room.
Well, I thought that was a good scene too, where he goes to fight when they're going to pick on the Indian fans, and he goes to, they all go to defend them and everything. I thought that was a great scene too.
But
the movie is filled with these wonderful moments.
That one scene was just unbelievable to me. And it is great. It is great how Lawrence's complete logic instantly breaks De Niro down. Okay. Let me hear more. That's just superb. It is a wonderful. I'd say it's my favorite sort of crowd-pleasing movie of the year for sure. And I think
that Bradley Cooper reaches a new plateau in it too. I really do think
totally, yes.
I have a lot of feel-gooders in my tops. Like movies that just make you happy to be alive.
Well, that's
refreshing.
That you tend to respond to quite a bit, and I think it's funny. I think we all three have. I think if you looked at all three of our top 10 lists, you would see a very, very absolute kind of personality profile that's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like. I don't know exactly what my personality, my list says about
I don't
me.
want to know, Dean. I don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to know mine. But can I just say before we go, there are some films I really did like a lot from this year, like Bachelorette or The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I just saw one last night, Liberal Arts. I would definitely throw in there. Seven Psychopaths. I would definitely put on that. Safety Not Guaranteed, Prometheus, but these are also films that I really love. And Jeff Who Lives at Home is another one. Killer Joe, for that matter. These are just films, Killer Joe especially, which I just saw within the last week, along with Liberal Arts, that are really, and obviously Compliance. I do think Compliance is one of the scariest films I've ever seen. I really want to say that.
And Magic Mike was very
Magic Mike
successful,
was superb.
I mean, is there any question he's had the best year out of any actor? I mean,
the single best year.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I think maybe this year he's going to have an equally great year too, with Mud and then the AIDS drama that's coming out. But I mean, I do want to take this opportunity to mention, just name drop real quickly. Other movies that didn't make my list. Including Footnote from Israel, Cloud Atlas, of course, Holy Motors from France, Beasts of the Southern Wild, a great, very little-seen documentary about hip-hop culture in Crown Heights in Brooklyn called Player Hating, a Love Story, The Kid with the Bike from Belgium.
I can't wait to see that.
one of my absolute favorite documentaries of the year. It was nominated this year, 5 Broken Cameras from Palestine. Unbelievable. Silver Linings Playbook, Bernie, Lincoln, yes, Magic Mike, of course, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Gray. And
that's another one I definitely...
Yeah, The Gray, Goodbye First Love from France, and finally Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods is good too. I can't rule that out. I really couldn't rule that out.
All right, guys. So next week we'll be back. We'll have Paul Giamatti and Don Coscarelli on the show to talk about John Dies at the End. And we need to look ahead and look at 2013 releases that we're most anxious to see. Maybe we'll do that next week's show as well. Yeah. All right, guys. Yep, great show. And I'll talk to you guys during the week.
All right, cool.
All right.
Awesome. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.